Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Super-Fanta-Fi. This being a show where I talk about TV shows of the supernatural, fantasy, and or science fictional genre. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of The Outpost. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. Well, first and foremost, we have two who took all those souls from those people last episode, being like, yeah, I'm going to go visit our gods. I was like, okay, so that kind of confirms one of the thoughts I had last episode, like whether she was going to go feed it to one of the gods. Turns out that's the case. We kind of get that at the end of the episode, but one thing I still don't fully get is why Felista is so on board with this. I guess it's because maybe it's just her own insecurities and just the fact is feeling like there's a higher purpose, a higher reason why she's in a position that she's in. Like, oh, I was like destined by the gods to be here. Like, I ended up getting this kinge. It's because of these gods. So like maybe just because she's so insecure that and so lost and broken that two kind of pieced her back together. So it's kind of like it doesn't seem like it's a one for what happened in Garrett, but it's like it seems like of the same vein. Like Felista needed to feel like she was important now, realizing there's a higher calling, and she's like, but it's just so like why she's getting so like that's the only reason I can explain like why she's getting so wrapped up in this belief that she's willing, like, because she made it seem at the beginning like no, we're the ones in power. I'm not listening to two. I'm not going to let her control me. I'm going to learn what we need to learn and blah 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 blah. But it's like no, you're allowing her to manipulate you. It's like, oh, don't let anyone tell you what to do, Queen. Felista, just follow the path that the gods laid out for you. She's like all about it. I just don't get why. And even Tobin, now realizing, like, it's one thing when it's like, right, she sacrificed 20 people for me. That's part of his guilt. I'm sure that's why he's drinking a lot, too. But also, like, a lot of stuff about Felista isn't adding up, isn't right. Like, for example, he finds the 20 dead, or well, not 20, but the whole bunch of dead prisoners. And it's like, wait, that's obviously not good, because if you really believed in it, like if it was all really like copacetic, like you're making it sound like it is, then you wouldn't be sneaking those bodies out in the middle of the night. To be fair, had to hide those 20 that were sacrificed to bring you back. So once again, it's just he already feels guilty enough, and now realizing like there's even more, like he's surely starting to see like Felista in a way he didn't want to. Now once again, whether or not Felista was always like this and that it was buried underneath, all it took was her getting some actual power to kind of awaken what was already there, or all this kinge stuff, all this stuff with these gods ended up warping her mind. It's hard to say. Because, like, Gwen wouldn't be all about what she's all about, So it's just he's slowly starting to see that, because he had blinders on, because this is the woman he loves. It's like, yeah, she might be doing some stuff, but he thinks like at the very least he thought he could rein her in. It's like, right, I'm gonna be that angel on her shoulder, and two's gonna be the devil on her shoulder. But now she's listening a lot more to the devil on her shoulder than the angel on her shoulder, because it's like, right, I'm the queen. Even if you're the king, you're my husband, I wanted to listen to you before. It's like, no. This is my call. I make decisions. Like, it's very unilateral at this point in time. So, and I think he's slowly but surely figuring that out. I love the whole awkward thing of, like, running into Garrett at the tavern, and it's like, oh, why are you here? He's like, why are you here? I'm bath salt. Felista loves him. He's like, sure. Keeping it, it's like, Munt shows up with some alcohol, and he's like, no, let's just keep this between us. Spears later, because he was asking, why haven't you found that girl? Like, it's like, oh, a lot of people disappear in the Outpost. But it's like one girl with a wound on her arm from when I like wounded her with her own weapon. Like, you should be able to find her. So suspicions are kind of arising like all over the place. Which I love that Garrett runs into Luna later on, and he's like, you literally shouldn't be in public. There are a ton of people that are looking for you, myself included. And it's like, oh, you wouldn't turn me in. Oh, why wouldn't I? It's like, well, for one, tell him I never forgive you, which is like, ooh, look at you playing dirty. Also, if I'm brought before the queen to save my own hide, who's to say what I won't say? And it's just like, for one, he's trying to help you by telling you to stay out of public, but I guess it's like, we kind of hear it later on. It's like she has this mentality that she knows best, so she's not going to listen to anyone, because she thinks like, I've been able to take care of myself for so long, I don't need anyone else. So she's not listening to Garrett's advice when she should have, because Tobin finds her and arrests her, and now she's brought before Felista and is being sentenced to death. Which, if you notice that, like, she's kind of got a smile on her face, like, okay, I'm fine. She's like, oh, you want to know about the secret location of these co-conspirators, the secret handshake? None of that exists, Your Majesty. I worked alone. It's like, fine, you're going to be executed. She took it with stride, So I don't know whether it's like on some level it's just her trying to put on a brave face, like no, like I don't want to let her see that I'm sweating or worried, you know. But also maybe on some level she was kind of thinking like, right, if it kind of gives me an excuse to die and be reunited with my sister, that doesn't come up later on, but maybe on some level she's thinking it. You never know. But what's interesting is Helen being like, but she's a young girl, like maybe we should handle this a little differently. It's like, yeah, you were all about capturing her. Because he also brings this point up about the other people. It's like, oh, those people you believe like were dissenters and weren't, you know, about following you at your position as the queen. At the very least, you weren't sure that they were guilty. That's why we have the whole system of them to be tried. And if they're found guilty, then we execute them. Like at least Gwen went about things to that extent. It wasn't just a straight, oh, let's execute these people. I mean, there were points, but still, like, once again, Felicia's just getting super power hungry. But, like, there's no time for judge or jury. It's just time for execution. So that's an interesting development. Obviously, you have... well, first and foremost, I gotta love it that Mutt keeps pointing it out that Janzo is turning more and more to their mom. Like, this whole operation, how excited he's getting about it. He's like, oh, I'm doing it for family. It's like, your mom made the same excuses too, which there's validity and altruism to what you're doing, but there's also the thing of like, oh, I think he kind of likes being a bad boy. It's like some of his mom's bad influence kind of rubbing off on him like that. But it's like very much so like, oh, like he's super like Eleanor in this regard. And it kind of screws you over in that regard. I mean, it got her... Like, when she was eventually found out, she got screwed over by it. Like, she lost her position as advisor and stuff like that because of her shady business dealings. Granted, you're just serving alcohol. You're not doing the whole Calypso thing. So, it's a little less of... It's not as bad. Obviously, Felicia's on her like, oh, like, these are the rules that were set because I, as the queen, ordered that. So, you doing that is an attack against my authority. So, she's power tripping. It's literally just alcohol. But, you know, that's the whole point. But the point I was about to bring up was now that Talon and the other Black Bloods are back, and it's like, wait, where are the others? And it's like, this is all that's left. Because Garrett was saying, like, we'll join up with the Black Bloods and the ones that come from the Plane of Ash, and then we'll have the numbers to kind of go up against Felista, which one of the dudes is like, no, I'm literally not going to join forces with the people who imprisoned us. Which that's the whole, I don't know, Catch-22 wouldn't be, maybe that's kind of the... turn of phrase that could be used in this regard, because it is the thing of like they were your best chance of kind of fixing the current circumstances, but at the same time it was the issue of these were the people who when they came here they enslaved you, imprisoned you, kind of worked a lot of you to almost to the point of death. So it's understandable why there would be some reservation, and that kind of works against him because Talon's the one that waited so long to bring the Black Bloods over because of how, you know, they handle things like when they first got here. So, like, they're the reason, like, that's the sad and effed up thing about it. It's because of a few, and they kind of screw the pooch for everyone because it's like, if she didn't have to worry about the Black Fist, because it's like, because she even brings it up later on, if I brought the Black Bloods over, that would have included the Black Fist as well, and they would have not only hurt the other Black Bloods like they did, they would have hurt the humans as well. So it was like there was no win-win situation. But the biggest people filled with guilt over this is Talon and Zed. Because I'm sure on some level Zed, it's like, right, it's on me because I didn't push Talon as much as I should have, but more so than anything, it's Corvin, like, because who knows, like, would the Black Fist have acted the way they did if they felt like there was a way out of it? I mean, because the thing is, there was a lot of bad blood there anyway, and no one thought they were getting out. So, once again, it's like, they were like, oh, and from their perspective, it's like, oh, we were defending ourselves. They were going to attack first, so we attacked them first and killed them before they could kill us. How true that is, or whether that's just their justification of it. But it's also like, right, that circumstance wouldn't have been created if they weren't left in the, you know, the Plane of Ash. But who's to say that same thing wouldn't have rose and would have, like, turned into a bigger issue if they were brought over into this realm? Who knows? That's all it is. What ifs, because you don't know. We'll never know because they can't go back in time. They can't erase what's been done. So obviously it's the conversation of, well, Ren has to step up. She doesn't want to be the High Priestess, but she doesn't have a choice at this time because the Black Bloods need to be mourned. A lot of people need help moving forward, and she's seen as the advisor because of what her mom the role her mom played. So it's like, you have no choice. You kind of have to step up because they need you. And he was lashing out a little bit, but it's also because he needed the guidance as well, having just lost his brother after everything. So Ren ends up a ceremony where it's like, right, a lot of us are carrying guilt. Let's spread this ash to represent like us kind of not letting that guilt wash over us. Talon performs the ceremony, but Zed doesn't. But there's also like a Black Blood that was kind of pissed at him, blaming him, being like, if you had just brought us over sooner. She isn't quite blaming Talon, but there's probably some deep-seated thing of like, right, she's probably pissed at Talon too, but can't do as much because that was more so on Zed. It's like, right, you should have tried harder because this was your mission, it was your purpose, and it's like, once again, was that all done after, I'm assuming it was after, Yavala was taken care of, so quickly things kind of fell apart like that. But it's like, right, there was also the time beforehand of like, oh, bring the Black Bloods over. Obviously, once again, Gwen had her reservations about it. Talon in general had her reservations about it. But when all this stuff is going down, they find out about Tu and everything. They decide to go after her because both Talon and Zed don't want to be around, because Zed's just kind of like, it would just be a constant reminder of his guilt. Same thing for Talon. I think they just like, we need to do something for the Black Bloods who remain, but it's also on us because we can't, like, they just don't want to stick around because it just be a reminder. Because as Ren was saying, that they are the, like, as long as those kids are taken care of, they are the future of the Black Bloods. They will be the one to carry on our traditions and everything, We might have lost a lot, but they will be our future, So, but that's kind of a hard thing, like, to be a species that is near extinction, to be the ones to be able to carry on. Because, like, you'd assume, like, it's a thing of, like, well, it probably won't just be, like, a reproduction amongst yourselves. It'd probably end up being, like, because the Black bloodline would probably thin out a lot more, too. I mean, obviously the same thing applies to, like, Janzo and Ren's baby as well, being kind of part of that next generation. But it's, like, that's what I'm saying, like, the next generation, this next generation would have to probably populate in that regard of like, right, like that the Black bloodline would continue. It would just thin out more and more over the years, but it'd still be there. Once again, we don't know if it, like I said, if it does, we don't know if it works like Viltrumite blood, where it's like the Black blood takes over more. Even if you're half human, half Black blood, the blood's more potent, like a Viltrumite, or maybe it's just, no, it is straight up half and half, and it does get thinner and thinner with each generation. Who knows? But that's just kind of you kind of just feel bad for those kids. I mean, just feel for the Black Bloods in general, just like how few of them remain. But obviously, there's a conversation where Felista gets in contact with her gods after her and Talon have their disagreements. Because for Talon, it's like, right, someone pretending to be a god can kind of be more of a threat. But Felista's like, oh, there are gods, you will serve them, blah, 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 blah. And so Talon brings this up to Ren, which Ren's like, okay, so the gods that the three worshipped are gods that the Black Bloods worshipped. But it's like, before the Black Bloods were the Black Bloods, the seven were the seven, and they left the earth for them to take over. Which, once again, how did that go from... Why did they leave the Black Bloods? It makes you wonder. I mean, and that's the thing. Do the teachings say they left? Or was it that the Black Bloods imprisoned them? Or was it humans that did that? Maybe it was a combination of two. Because at one point in time, there was some potential cooperation between the humans and the Black Bloods. It just fell apart over the years. And then, like, it is what it is now. So, I'm curious about these guys. Like, someone had to have locked them up. Who and for what purpose? So, maybe it's just... Maybe certain Black Bloods did it and they didn't want to put out there. So yeah, we kind of locked up these gods we worshipped for a long time. Or maybe there's some scriptures and writings that like are just... I mean, because as Ren says, there's a lot about the seven that was just kind of... Maybe it's like they left and then they came back and they were very tyrannical, so the Black Bloods had to lock them up. Like I said, maybe it was a human thing. Who knows? Why would their gods just kind of leave them? Why would it be like, oh, it kind of left the earth to them, and then just, obviously, humans mainly run the place now. So, it's interesting how that turned out, and why it turned out like that. But, so obviously, once again, Talon and Zed are going to search for, to figure out, like, where she's going, especially now she's looking for those gods. But, along the way, Zed and her had their back and forth, and it's like, he's like, I don't blame you, because regardless of everything... Talon still feels her guilt, and he's like, I don't blame you. The fact is, if anything, it's more so about Corbin, like my brother. If he had brought him along when I did, none of this would have happened. Like, when we were first there last season, if I had brought him back then, I wouldn't have to worry about it. But it's like, but he was able to, because he was there, he saved those children, and he took an arrow for you and saved your life. So your brother died a hero. I mean, regardless of all of that, like, they say, oh, he's a hero and everything, but you'd still rather him be with you than him being celebrated as a hero. So at the same time, Luna, once again, not listening, ends up getting captured pretty easily by Tobin. Also, the fact is that she's such a show-off. Like, the one she was higher up on the building, she's kind of bowing like, Your Majesty. It's like, why you have to be such a dick about it? And because of that, you think you're so, like, hot stuff. It's like you immediately got captured. Get sentenced to death. Obviously, Tobin confronts Garrett about it, but it being like so easy to find her, yet like the gate marshal being as well-minded as Garrett is, he couldn't find her. But also Garrett's like, right, yes, she was kind of impulsive trying to kill your wife, but me and Talon talked to her and she's never done it again. It's just so interesting to hear that like blocked off like that. It's like in the context of like, yeah, Luna's not that bad, it's understandable, but also just in the context of like, right, she tried to assassinate the queen who is your wife, but come on, she deserves a little slap on the wrist. That's about it. It's like out of context. If it wasn't for us kind of being a little attached to Luna, at least I am. If we weren't attached to that character in that regard, you'd be like, yeah, that from an outside perspective can look super jacked up of like, no, she tried to kill my wife. No, but it's like, right, she's about to be executed. But even Tobin's like, yeah, she's a kid. Like, maybe we can set her on the right path. And so Tobin actually gives Garrett the leeway to kind of bust her out. And when she's able to get out, and I love that whole thing of like, oh, but good guy Tobin. Like, even though you made some questionable choices recently, you've still got that good nature. You still got that good heart that's not corrupted. He's just not as blinded the way Felista is. Once again, for whatever reason, she's blinded the way she is. Because, once again, I don't get why she's had the reaction to these gods the way Tobin has. Like, Tobin hasn't. Like, no one else has had the same reaction she has except for 2. But it's like 2, 3, and 1. Well, I should just say the 3. I didn't have to see. But the 3, like, worshipped them already. So it's like, that it makes sense for them as dedicated, but Felista only just found out about him. I mean, maybe Felista was already religious, and now all she has to do is shift over now, and she's like, oh my god, I met these gods. Like, now it's like, but still, like, Tobin never had that perspective, but, you know, maybe he wasn't nearly as religious as Felista, and now she's just putting all her eggs in this basket of the 7, but we'll get to that soon enough. Well, eventually in the show, I'm sure we'll kind of maybe get a better understanding of why she's so all in. But I love the whole thing of, like, Luna's still trying to make an excuse. It's like, nah, you know, I've done a good job hiding out here. It's like, no, you didn't. You got caught. So you're going to have to leave. And she's like, admit it. You're going to miss me. It's going to be boring around here without me. He's like, I'll manage somehow. Now go. So, but she eventually catches up with Zed and Talon. And I love the whole thing of, like, she's like, I can take care of myself. I even beat Talon the first time we met. Tell him. And it's just like, Zed's looking like, oh. And she's like, Talon's like, I was drunk. And no, you didn't beat me. So go, like, the fact is, if you follow us, you're going to be in more danger, but it's like, I can't handle it. It's like, you know, I love Zed being like, you must not know what my kinge does if you think that you're just going to be able to follow us. Like, my kinge will literally make you leave us alone if I wanted to. But Talon's like, fine, follow us. Because I love the whole thing of like, yeah, Felista was going to execute me, but Garrett saved me. I think he fancies me. I'm like, I love that line of just like, shut up, kid. I love it. But I also appreciate that her and Talon were able to talk. We kind of got more insight into why those dead bodies bothered her as much. Because Dread attacked the monastery. She's like, I said that I just ran away, but there's more to the story. When the Covenant soldiers and Dread attacked, they slaughtered people and threw their bodies and piled them up in the hallways. To protect herself and her sister, they hid amongst the dead bodies, but Everett found them because her sister couldn't stand still, so that's how he ended up getting her. And she was so paralyzed with fear that she couldn't go after her sister, so that, like, seeing those dead bodies piled up took her back to a moment of, because she's all about, like, no, I don't need anyone, I can take care of myself. It's kind of like, you know, it's her, like, overcompensating because in the time, like, she has her biggest regret of, like, the time, like, her sister needed her, she couldn't act. You know, she probably would have been killed in that moment because he only needed one of them. it probably wouldn't have worked out for both of them. It probably would have been like, oh, I'm gonna take your sister, she's a dragonman, and I would have killed you. So, but it took her back to that moment of feeling powerless and scared. So that's what those bodies remind her of. Which obviously Talon understands more so than anyone of like what it's like to lose to people you love. She even talked to Garrett about it before of like, you said that everywhere I go, I bring death. And he was like, I wasn't in my right mind when I said that. But for her, it's like, but what if that's true? Like, I've, you know, it's like there's been a lot of death that has followed her. So it begs to question. I mean, I don't believe that. I think it's just kind of like death follows everyone in this world sooner or later. It's just the way it is. You've just been an unfortunate person or an unfortunate recipient of a lot of people around you dying. I don't think like you're the cause of it. Is it because you've done a lot to save a lot of lives as well. But in like, Garrett did bring up something interesting. It's like, you can't put that all on yourself. Like, if your mom really wanted the Black Bloods over here in this world, why didn't she ever bring them over? I guess because I'm sure she had her reservations about it because maybe she knew that they would cause more trouble and it'd make things harder for the Black Bloods. I mean, who knows? Maybe things would have worked out if she had, because I mean, that entire, like, Talon's entire village wouldn't have got massacred. Like, the only other Black Bloods in this world, like, maybe, who knows? Maybe it's just like it was self-preservation because like if there's too many Black Bloods here, maybe she once again didn't trust them. Maybe she just didn't have the time to eventually open up her thought to it. Maybe it was just, maybe she wanted to, but she was given orders by like the village elder or something to like, no, you're not allowed to like bring them through. Like maybe it's because of traditions and stuff. Like they were locked away for a reason. Bringing them over here, it would be like sacrilegious in certain regards. It would be against, like it'd be taboo. So maybe it correlates in that regard. Who knows? But back to the point. Talon talks about the fact is of being so consumed, like, and just kind of cutting yourself off to just that pain and not opening yourself up to other things. She's like, when I came to the Outpost, all I had was revenge. And it's like, yeah, I got some, but it didn't resolve everything. But being there, she found friends, family, lovers, mentors. Like, she found a lot more. She found a family, and it's like if you cut yourself off from the rest of the world like that, like you won't, you know, you'll be left all alone, and that's no way to go through life. So there's that element. There's a whole situation with Felista bringing Rin before her, and once again being like, "Oh, I'm your queen. Aren't you going to bow?" And Talon's like, Tobin's like, "That's not necessary because for one, it's like she's one of our allies, our friends. Like, it's not necessary amongst friends. Like other subjects, sure, but like Rin, we're good. Like that'd be like asking Tobin or Talon or Garrett to kind of bow before it. But Felista's like, no, do it. But Rin's like, I'll do it. But she's like, I want you to look into this word for me. She's like, I don't know. And the fact is, Felicita's like, I think you're lying. Which turns out she was right. Rin was lying. But it's just kind of like, why didn't you immediately believe her? Because it's like her paranoia is getting the best of her. But it's like, Rin's just got the job. She doesn't know everything her mom did. That, like, even though she was lying, there's still validity to it. Like, there are things she just won't know. But your boy Janzo ended up getting caught because of his illegal business sooner or later. I mean, to be fair, your mom got super caught for her business, so it was I think you got caught a lot quicker than your mom did, and which is sad because she was the one up to some super illicit stuff. You were doing some like mildly illicit stuff, but which I also love. Like, there's a conversation between him about like him and Munt about love, and he's like, oh, you came to the right person, brother. I know all about that. I also love, like, because like Munt and Warlita, they are super adorable. I love the whole like, oh, my lord, my lady thing that they had going on, and then it's like, oh, there's that bed, do you want to, and then they do it. I'm like, I was like, wait, are they? And then 3 seconds later it's cutting to them jumping on it. It's like, okay, that's such a that was so unexpected. Like, it's not the word I mean to use, but it's just like, I love how they like fool you for a second. I'm like, wait, whoa, oh, they're jumping on the bed, of course. But it's super sweet to know that Mutt's in love. That's super awesome. But you're also like, oh, please don't let nothing happen to Warlita, because that would suck. Oh, that suck, major donkey butt. I was about to say donkey dick. I should have said that. Either way, it would have sucked. It's kind of the point I'm trying to make. So, But Janzo getting arrested. I mean, it sounded like everyone there got arrested, but also Janzo in particular. And it's like, okay, Ren, if you don't help me, Janzo is going to be sentenced to death. I'm like, geez, like, come on. After everything you guys have been through, and you're going to do that? Like, come on. Are you going to do that to Janzo? That's super messed up. But then, like, Ren is like, okay, I'll look into it. Just give me some more time. It's like, all right, if you don't, Janzo's going to get super dead. Okay, but I need his help. Fine, whatever. But it turns out Ren actually does know the word. And it means the end of the world, which I'm like, okay, cool. So these things, if the seven, I guess, ever reunite, it's like, I guess it's like they all the seven need to be united and they can bring about the end of the world. Maybe it's a thing of like, through the ashes of the old world, a new world will be reborn. Maybe that's always been the seven's thing of like, oh, like maybe we're discussing with this world and we've always wanted it destroyed. And maybe the Black Bloods or humans or a combination of the two locked us up because of that. So why they're all about the end of everything, we'll have to wait and see. But Talon, Zed, and Luna end up tracking down too. Well, he had to like send his Lakiri away, which I thought was interesting because the whistle didn't work. What ended up working was him using the his Kinj to actually send it away, interestingly enough. But obviously, I thought you would need all of the seven Kinjs like in the same room or something to unlock that thing. But no, she just needed the strength to break free because she was in a weakened state. So giving her all that life set her free. So that's all that's necessary. Once again, all we focused on is this one in particular. We haven't focused on the Black Kinj one at all. Like, we haven't seen him since the season 3 finale. So I'm like, what's up with him? Like, maybe he's in such a decayed state that he can't communicate, or maybe once again, maybe it's just because she's the one with the white Kinj and that has like the mind connecting kind of hive mind thing. So maybe that's why that works the way it does. Why they haven't been able to reach out to the Black Kinj one, only this one. So we'll have to wait and see where this turn of events takes us going forward into the next episode. But really, that's all I want to talk about. So the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day, and goodbye.